Hey, magic makers. I hope you are having a fabulous day. So, today I wanted to talk about change and understanding about change. And this comes because, I've been working a lot with the girls in my Fit Girl Magic Society about change and why, if in your mind you're like, this is what I want, I know what I need to do, but for the love of God, I just can't seem to take the steps, sustain the steps, and you just feel like you're just banging your head against the wall. So, first things first, change is a process, and I'm going to walk through 6 steps here today regarding this, regarding what change looks like. And like I said, sometimes change can feel effortless. Think about seasons, right? You don't say like, bring me spring and spring happens. It just happens, day turns to night without sometimes, us like looking up from your desk and you're like, it's dark outside. The years pass, so there are certain things that just like, time marches on. And we evolve and we adapt to these types of changes, especially think about like daylight savings time. We're like, oh, we're used to having hours and hours of daylight during the summer. And then like fall comes and we're like, oh, I got to get used to like the 4 o'clock and being dark out. But sometimes, change can be difficult and frustrating and feel like almost impossible, especially when you're looking for a specific result, right? You want to lose those last 5 pounds and you're just like, for the love, come on, give it to me right freaking now. So how we wish change worked. We wish it was like this 3-step process. You know what you want to change, you decide you're ready to do it, and presto changeo, just like Amazon Prime, ding dong, the package arrives at your front doorstep. That would be fabulous and make my job, I probably would be out of business if that were the case. But what really happens is that you kind of want to sort of change. Maybe you're forced into change. Maybe you're conflicted about the change. Maybe you're overwhelmed. Maybe you don't even know what the heck to do to make the change. So you start investigating and you start, talking to people, doing the Google and scrolling social. And then maybe you just get overwhelmed because it's just too much information out there. You just don't even know where to start. And then you decide, you're kind of decide, you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and you're bummed that you got to make some trade-offs. Like you just can't be having like rosé all day and still want to lose the weight. You give it a go, and then life, and then you're not clear about how to get restarted. And then you get resistance because you're like, oh, I got to give up so much to get what I want. There's no instant gratification. You try again. Maybe I do something a little different. And at the end of the day, changes, it can be chaotic and unpredictable. I'm not going to candy coat it. That's what change can be. But what I'm going today is for us to come up with, we can't expect it to go step by step, right? We have to expect that there are going to be bumps in the road. And the biggest thing I always tell people when we're going down the road of change, when we make that decision, this is what it is that we want to change, decide that we want to be healthier, decide that we want to lose the weight, decide we want to have less stress, more stress. Who wants more stress in their life? We'll have more stress in their life. We have to, what I always call, go through my 4-step process. 1, is what my goal is it realistic? Am I excited about it? Can I make a plan for it? And is it sustainable at the end of the day? Those are like the 4 things I have to think about, because if I don't have those 4 things in place, I'm probably not going to be successful. Yes, that came up. I'm probably not going to be successful. So the first place we have to start is in our mindset. What are our beliefs about change? What are our beliefs about ourselves? What do we value? And what are the priorities? Like what are your priorities? Second, what's your environment? Are you around people who are inspiring and invigorating, who, are cheerleading you on? Or are you around people who are like, oh yeah, girl, sit down, let's have another glass of rosé? Like who are you surrounding yourself? I don't know who said this, but you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you're spending time with people who are always healthy and fit and doing all the things, then 9 times out of 10, your behaviors are going to match those people. But if you're around people who are like swinging by the Burger King and, drinking Bud Heavies, then you're kind of going to swinging by the Burger King, drinking Bud Heavies. And then your behavior, what are your daily actions, practices, skills that are leading you toward your goal, right? Because it's like, so many people think it's this big cataclysmic thing that's going to help me get to my goal, but it's really my step by step, my daily action that's really going to be the main driver of what I get. And so how do you feel about change? I have a client who talks about change as being scratchy, right? And so whenever she thinks about it, I just think about like that wool sweater that you would put on and like it would just itch your collar for forever. So do you feel like change is scratchy? Do you feel like you have to struggle in order to change? Do you feel like middle of the road, or do you feel change is easy? Or are you like, depends on what trying to get me to change? And so for many of us, we have to decide where our change lives, right? Do we feel that change, and this is a mindset thing, is change inside me, that it's things that, it's my thoughts, it's my beliefs that I have to work on in order for me to make a change? Or do you think it's outside of you? Do you think it's your environment? Remember how I said you're the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. Maybe you don't live in a place that there is a gym, or maybe you don't live in a place where people work out. Is it your relationships? Maybe you're in a new relationship and you want to spend all the time with each other, or maybe you have children and you're like, I don't know what to do with my kids because there's no babysitting at the gym or what have you. Or maybe you have a lot going on the work front. Maybe you work multiple jobs, or maybe you have a more than full-time job. Aging parents, we all have life. And or maybe it's something in between. Maybe it's something that is inside of you with your thoughts and your beliefs, or maybe it's something also external to you as well. But knowing what to do and doing it is very different. And that's where I think I shine. I have a lot of clients that come to me and they're like, Kim, girl, I've been in the game for a long time. I know exactly what to do, but for the love of God, I just can't seem to string multiple days together, multiple weeks together, multiple months together. I just can't find my butt with both hands. And so, especially when you're trying to stick with something that we've done over and over again, so I go back to my reps. Is what you're doing realistic for you right now? Because there's certain things that I did, 20 years ago. There's no way, 10 years ago, no way I want to do that. I want to spend the time doing that. So maybe, yeah, I got results, but I want to say, like I always say, how you get to your goal is how you're going to keep your goal. And I know right now for me, going back to the gym for 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, oh, hell no. Bolded, underlined, sprinkle some glitter on that. Ain't gonna happen. I'm not there. So here's where I have to kind of say, like, how am I going to stick to this, right? What's back to the reps? What's realistic for me right now? So, I have a client who she's a big revenge bedtime person. And so by revenge bedtime, I think I've talked about this before. Revenge bedtime, she has a more than full-time job. And for her, she's like, my Netflix and chill, that's my self-care. That's how I just, let go of the day. But she doesn't sleep. So we talk about, can you, reduce blue light and see if that can help you, sleep through the night. Just a bunch of different suggestions. Can you set a bedtime? Because she also wants to start working out in the morning so she could be more consistent with her workouts. And, the best we can do is guide it. As a coach, the best I can do is guide you, right? So it's kind of like, what to do, but are you doing it? So maybe that's not the place for her to start. And so we've been talking about that. Like, she knows that it's not, Netflixing isn't, serving her well, but it's her escape. And so until she's ready, right? It's not like this, and it's not wrong, but until she's ready to find another way of like unplugging from life, that's a little bit too challenging for her right now. So it's not realistic, right? She's not excited about the prospect of not, Netflixing and chilling. So why would I force it down her throat? And like, why was she forced it down her throat? Because she's setting herself up for failure. And, if I keep telling myself I'm going to set a bedtime, and if then you get caught up in your Netflixing and you don't really feel motivated to do that, you don't want to take the action, then why are we trying to keep doing what you don't want to do? Same thing, with, I live in Boston, right? So during, we had both the Bruins and the Celtics. get into the playoffs and go deep into the playoffs. And, games are starting at 9 o'clock. And same woman, she's like, I've been a diehard Bruins fan for my whole life. Like, there's no way I'm going to miss the playoffs game. Well, maybe a sleep goal isn't right for you right now. Right. Because I see so many people trying to do that. They try to like pick these goals. And I don't know if they pick these goals because I think it sounds good. But then when I apply it to their life, they're like, well, this is what's going on right now. And I'm like, well, that's not a good goal for you right now. And it's not in a judgmental way. It's just like, look at your freaking life. Why are you already throwing down these like giant barriers when we could pick something else? Right. We could always pick up on sleep, and, we have a full year, after playoff season is over, we have a full year to practice the sleep thing. And so that maybe you can stay up late watching the games and get a good night's damn sleep. All right. So here's what we have to start thinking about, like how, as we're setting, thinking about changing, how are we going to actually implement these behaviors? Like, I want you to look at your real life. Sometimes, I feel as a coach, sometimes I'm looking at your reality and you're not. And so, how do we look at your reality? Like, what's going on with you so that we can set you up down the path for the most success. And, I know like times you're going to have mixed feelings because you're going to be like, I really want to focus on sleep. But I'm like, yeah, but you're also telling me you want to stay up and watch the Bruins game. So like, help me out. Let's pick our battles, because we can't, it's a draw. Like, we are at loggerheads. Like, we are not going to break this impasse. Especially, you have competing interests. And, we're looking to find habits that we can start to put on repeat, that it's effortless. We're not thinking about doing them. So here's 6, I'm going to break down the 6 steps here. And then I will give you the counter, like, okay, what obstacles can pop up in these 6 steps? So the first one is, we have to assess where we are, like in the stage of change. And there's 4 stages of change. And I have a podcast that I did all on this. And I will link to it in my show notes. I'm writing it right now, write myself a note right now. So there's 4 stages of change. So the first one is contemplation. So this is like, there's a problem, but you're not ready. You're not sure, you're lacking confidence about making this change. The second one is pre-contemplation. So it's like, you're thinking about making the change, but you haven't actually taken any action. Third is action. You're like, the change, you got your action plan, and you're just making the steps. And then the fourth is maintenance, so that you are taking, you're actually like in the process of either the change has been made, or you're constantly working on creating change for said challenge. All right. So that's step 1. It's like, where are you in the change? And then, what does your big picture look like? So I'm going to stick with sleep because it's just, easy. Everyone knows that. So what does your big picture look like? Like, what do you foresee for yourself when, trying to get a better night's sleep? What behaviors do you already possess that's going to help you get a better night's sleep? And then pick one action at a time. I see it all the time. I ask people, give me that one action that you could do. And like, well, and it's like, I have to, get new pillows. I gotta get a new bed. I gotta take magnesium. I gotta go to the gym. I gotta. And it's like, I'm like, damn, I'm tired of just listening to everything that you got to do. So I challenge you, pick one action at a time. And then we're going to take that one action, and then we're going to test it, and we're going to experiment. We're going to test, and we're going to say, how'd you do? Did that one action, move the needle in any way, shape, or form? And we're regularly going to evaluate this. And I always tell people at least 14 to 30 days. Most people like in a night, like, I got new pillows and I still slept like crap. Well, it's only one night. Like, what can you know in one night? Like, did you not fluff it? Did you not do this? Did you not do that? Like, there's too many like variables if you give it for one night. Excuse me. And as a coach, my job is to help guide you, and point you through and help you kind of like expand your thinking as you work through this. So questions that you should ask yourself is like, where are you right now and where do you want to be? Like what, it's kind of like if we were going on a road trip, do you just get in the car? There's not very few of us who don't have access to, some type of GPS device on our phones or physically in our cars. But I'm going to punch in. I want to go to 123 Main Street. And, I talk about this regularly. So I live in Boston and Mass Ave goes through four towns. If I don't put in the right address for Mass Ave, I could end up cities away from where I want to be and not just blocks away from where I want to be. So we got to decide like where you are now and where are you driving your bus and what matters on your journey. What are the things that might pop up on your journey? Because, so many people think like, oh, I'm going to lose the 10 pounds. And they don't think like, oh, well, I'm going on vacation and oh, I have this wedding and oh, I have this big project at work and oh, like they don't think through anything that's going to pop up because like that's life. Like poop is going to happen. So what's your plan? Let's create a plan, but know that the plan needs to be flexible. Know that, as I'm going through this, I'm going to also build in that flexibility because sometimes I think I can go right and there's a detour on the road. They're, paving the road. I got to make a right versus a left. And then what's the first 2 steps that you have to take towards this goal? And then we take a step back. How's it going? Should I be going down this path or do I need to take another detour, right? Do I need to, pick up a hitchhiker? What do I need to do? How is it working? And so the common traps that I see people falling into when they try to make these changes is that their goal is vague. I call them fuzzy goals. When someone tells me, well, I just want to shape up. I just want to tone up. I just want to eat healthy. I want to get a better night's sleep, right? Those are vague goals. Like I, in my mind, have an idea of what that looks like. You, in your mind, have an idea of what that looks like. And then the client has an idea of what it looks like. And if the 3 of us sat down and said, what does getting healthier look like to you? I would know what I would say. You know what you would say. And then the client might be saying something completely different. And we're like, oh, we're not even in the same damn state. So then the second place is very, very narrow focus. Like, you got the blinders on, like, I want to lose 20 pounds. Boom, that's it. Lose 20 pounds. Now it's specific, it's very clear. However, if the 20 pounds doesn't take it's very narrow and focused because it doesn't take into account anything else going on in your life, right? It doesn't take into account that maybe I have some health condition that might not be conducive. Maybe I'm not sleeping. Maybe I'm overeating. Like, so my focus is so narrow, but I'm not taking into account other activities that I might be doing that contributed to that weight gain. We're not clear about where we're starting. We need to know where we're starting. So again, if I go back to sleep, I want to sleep better. Okay, so what does better look like? Like how many hours are you sleeping right now? How many times a night are you waking up? For how long are you waking up, right? So that we can start to have this, start to see trends, right? So start to see like, maybe you still don't fall asleep immediately, but maybe you're, instead of getting up 10 times a night, you're only getting up 8, right? So we can start to see where our baseline is. Being too ambitious, like I'm going to lose 100 pounds in 30 days. Good luck. Are you losing an organ, right? That's just really this really very over ambitious type goal. I'm going to make $1 million in the next 30 days. You win a Powerball? Like, there we go. An indefinite action, like there's no clear timeline. Like I'm going to lose 100 pounds. Great. Do we want to set smaller milestones? Do we want to break it down into like 4 20-pound milestones, like 5 20-pound milestones? Like, how do we want to break this down? And then you don't have a test. Like you don't know, for example, like if I say I want to sleep better, how will I know I'm sleeping better? Right? What's the proof, right? How do I know? Like, how do I, what's the evidence that I'm going to see? So, that's where people fall into. And so the first place is like, we have to get so clear about what it is that we want so that if I'm explaining it to a coach, to a friend, they're like, oh, you want to go to 555 Mass Ave in Boston. Great. I know exactly how to take you there. Boom, let's do it. Right. We want to be so clear about where we want to go. We want to look at all the factors that might possibly get in our way. Right. It is work upon, the first thing that I think of as an example for this is when I was working at the gym, when I was first working at the gym, and I would meet with a new client and I'd be like, hey, how many days a week can you work out? And they'd be like, 7. And I'm like, okay, so you don't have a full-time job. You don't travel. You don't have kids. Well, yeah. And so then as I start to bring up these life things, like, I'm like, so why don't we just start with something like 3 days a week? And so we can see how it goes. Because everyone wants to, dive into the deep end, but I'm like, sometimes you just have to wade in, maybe have some water wings on and be okay with that. Right. I've talked about a lot about that, pick your pace and make peace with it. But also, we got to look at these baselines. We have to know, like, where am I starting? And I challenge you, the baseline to not be weight. The baseline could be a pair of jeans. The baseline could be, how are you feeling? When I first started hormone therapy, I still didn't feel good. Everyone talks about, I'm going to feel amazing. And then my doctor changed one thing. She's like, what's the one symptom that's bothering you the most? And I told her it was my hot flashes. I was like, that is bothering me the most. Because sometimes I could be sitting here doing this podcast and I would be dripping sweat like I just came out of a spin class. And I said, that's my biggest thing. I'm like, I wake up multiple times a night. And when I don't get a good night's sleep, I'm witchy. And I'm just sick of just like waking up and like having to like lay there and like get myself like, let myself cool off, or just being out in public and just being like a sweaty ball. Now she fooled, for the last year and a half, she's been fooling around with my progesterone levels. And now I don't have any hot flashes. And I'm like, oh, I sleep like a babe in the woods. Right. So that was my one benchmark for me, was that if I could get rid of those, and that's all I looked at. Other things have improved, but that was my base mark. So I want you to think about, what can your base mark be as you're trying to think about what you're trying to change. And as I was prioritizing, I had to be realistic, right? I didn't say it was going to go away overnight. I was like, I kissed a lot of frogs. Trust me. I can do a whole segment on my hot flash journey if that's of interest to you. And I had to have clear timelines and I had to give feedback, right? And as a coach, I'm very big into feedback. Like if something changed for you, I want to know, what do you think happened? So that when it goes away, I can go back and be like, hey, are you still wearing those blue pajamas? Because when you wore the blue pajamas, that's when you slept well. Or when you only had one pillow versus 2 pillows, right? Looking at anything, like when you eat broccoli, when you don't eat broccoli, like, so that we can start to understand where we're going. And so that we can have structured reflection of how it is actually going. So we can start to like get down to the root cause. And so we can stop, spinning our wheels around and around and around. Because as we start to, change, we want to be clear that these changes are going to last. Like, especially because you're like, it's taking me so freaking long to get to this point right here. So as I think about it, the first place that I want to really stress to you on this is, the first place I needed to do is I need to get clear, right? Because without clarity, it's like running a race and not knowing how far you're going. Like, you don't know where the finish line is. And we all have to have a finish line. Now, sure, like I said, life is a never ending finish line, but I always say that they're mile markers, right? If you've ever run a road race, they'll tell you, hey, at 1 mile in, there's water. 2 miles in, there's the bathroom. 3 miles in, there's this. They tell you along the route how far you have to go until you hit whatever it is that you're looking for. So I want you to start thinking about, like, being crystal clear about what it is that you want, why you want it, and how will you know you got it? Because if I don't know that, then it's literally, I'm spinning my wheels. You're just like a hamster on a wheel. And then we have to say, like, what like get really specific as to what it is. So we have one single focus. The best analogy I have for that is I have a client, she's like, well, I have several things I'm working on. And I was like, are you doing several things well? How do you know you're doing several things well? Pause, crickets. And I said, what if, I go, I want you to think about, have you ever cooked for a dinner party? And I'm thinking about you right now. Have you ever cooked for a dinner party? Think about like Thanksgiving, and you're trying to get like all the, time it right so that the turkey and this and this and this and this. And as you're making the meal, only one piece of the Thanksgiving dinner can have your attention. Everything else is simmering. Everything else is like waiting in the queue. And so I said, can we focus on one thing, create some nice clear baselines for it so that we know if it's working. We know that whatever the hell we're focusing on, we're actually getting some traction in that so that we can set some reasonable, achievable goals and timeframes, and then we can build our plan off of what we're already seeing. And so we can start moving forward and start to, instead of having multiple priorities, we are just like, boom, laser focusing in on one thing. Because think about it. How many times when you action pack your schedule, do you get it all done? I have those like what I call like heads down days where like I know those days I'm like, I got a lot of stuff to get done. I hope, but I'm like, I always put at the top, I'm like, if I can get these three things done, because I was an overscheduler. Oh, don't even get me started how bad of an overscheduler I was. And one of the best things that I ever started doing was three. If I could get through three things, and the three things aren't huge. It's not like I need to clean my whole house, right? If you have to clean your whole house, keep it to one. I got a 3-bedroom house. Like there's no way I can clean my house, then do my garden, mow my lawn. Like, no, like I have to like pick my battles. I am not superhuman. Maybe you are. If you are, please tell me that you're superhuman. Reach out because I want to know. I want to meet one of you, but think, because we underestimate the time it takes us to do small tasks. Like, oh, it'll only take me 20 minutes to mow the lawn. Well, guess what? That's the day when you need gas. That's the day when the lawnmower decides it's not going to work. That's the day when there's like, something in your yard. That's the day, like the days that you need everything to be like, the days you need everything to be boom, boom, boom is the days that your life just blows up in your face. So if I believe this day is going to blow up in my face, then I will underachieve. Is that a word? I will underestimate how much I can get done. And not be so darn ambitious. Like there's no prize. This is what and get through your mind. If you go, there's no prize for busy. All right. If there was a prize for busy, if someone rang my doorbell and gave me a Mercedes every time I was like, I'm so busy, you bet your sweet bottom I'd still be busy. But there's no prize, there's no Mercedes, there's no merit badge, ladies. There's no merit badge out there. So we want to create these timelines, realistic timelines that you're excited about, that you can make a plan for in your life. Because if you don't have a timeline, how will you know it's working? Right? We need to have a specific timeline. And I like to say, 14 to 30 days, so that you're not like spinning your wheels. You're not like, like a little kid trying to count down to a holiday, right? And, you got your little calendar with your X's on it. And so the best way I can describe it is like, I had a client who said, I want to get up in the morning and I want to go for a walk. Awesome. Rock on with your bad self. But I was like, how are we going to know that it's working? How are we going to track your progress? And so I said, one, it's easily, are you, it's one way to track, black, white. Are you or aren't you getting up? That's one way. Second way is, are you getting out of bed, or are you finding yourself like snoozeville to get out of bed? That's another way to see if we're doing progress. And the third is, how are you feeling? All right. So it's like, am I feeling good just from moving my body? Am I feeling like that I feel better after the walk and I'm doing more stuff on the back end? Am I feeling like I'm not pressing snooze? Am I feeling like I'm looking forward to these walks, or is it more like, a torture walk? Or am I not taking any real action, right? So like if 3 days feels like hard and I stop and then I don't get back on the horse, like then it's hard for me to even tell you how it went. So we have to like really say before we even start, this is how we're going to measure and judge what's going on. And, we all have unique life, right? And so own who you are. I regularly talk about seasons in your life, right? You have to honor the season that you are in. Is it a season where, work is going to be busy? Is it a season where you're carting your kids here, there, and everywhere? Is it a season where you just are traveling a lot? Like, so own where you are so that you start to set yourself up for success so that you know what's reasonable for you in this season of life. And here's where a coach really helps, because sometimes, like, we can't see the trees for the forest. Sometimes you need someone to be like, hey girl, have you thought about this? I have a client, she's in the military, and they have weigh-ins. And so typically her weigh-in is in June. Well, they moved it to August. And now she has a vacation plan because she thought her weigh-in was going to be in June. She would go on vacation in July and not have to think about this weigh-in. So now they've moved it to August, and her vacation's the last week of July. And she's like, I want to go and I want to enjoy myself. And I said, I too want you to go and enjoy yourself. So so she's like, I'm going to weigh in on the 10th. And I'm like, but you're going the last week of July. So you're literally giving yourself like 7 days, how I think it works out, 7 days in order to meet this weigh-in. I'm like, that's aggressive. And so without someone saying that to her, she's like, oh, so now she's like, okay, when is the last possible time I can weigh in? So now we can, we can start to make some decisions about what does vacation look like? What does it look like to come back? And what does it look like between now and vacation, so that we make sure that she's right in the zone to hit her goals. And, really the focus is, did I take action? Sometimes it's binary, yes or no. And then it's also just tracking how I feel, because sometimes, like I said, we get caught up in, I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to lose 20 pounds, but we lose sight that, like, oh my God, I'm sleeping much better. I feel amazing. My pants are feeling looser. People are complimenting me. My skin is looking glowy and dewy. Who doesn't want that? Because sometimes we can't see the relationship from our actions to our goals, and we lose sight of that. But as I said, we have to step in, have reflection, check in. And it's not an invitation to beat yourself up that said, like, I told myself I was going to do 400 things and I only did 395. Like, what the hell? It's asking us, like, it's teaching us, when we do these reflection, like, what's working? How can I maintain this consistency? Am I still marching down the path, or do I need to take a left turn? Do I take a right turn? So I'd love to see how this is landing with you. How do you feel when it comes to change? You someone who's like all about it, or you someone who needs to kind of be like, a slow crank to the change? All right, magic makers, enjoy the rest of your fabulous day, and I will talk to you next week.